Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and of course, I am super excited that you're here. We are continuing our journey about talking about Neville Goddard's Your Faith is Your Fortune. And today, we're going to lean into all of the possibilities that are available to you. You actually have the opportunity to make changes in your own life, to literally live a life that you absolutely love. And it starts with just allowing some of these possibilities to enter into your life. For you to take a look at the identity and the state that you're holding true of yourself and allowing yourself to fully immerse into the possibility of your desired outcome. So this is the podcast where I teach you how to change your habits, change your mindset, and actually change your life. And I cannot wait to get started. This is probably one of the episodes I am the most excited about. I hope that you can hear it in my voice because I'm super fired up because I know that you have the opportunity to live the life that you actually want. So let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me yet again today. If you are new, welcome. This is the podcast where I am dedicated to teaching you how I use law of assumption and law of attraction principles in my life in an actual practical, pragmatic way so that I could use what's considered the power of positive thinking to actually change my life without creating some weird cycle of mental battlefield or me feeling like I had to be happy and positive all the time. And when I started to be able to put this together and understand the actual principles and how to use it in a very pragmatic way, it just started to click a lot more for me. And I made drastic changes in my own life. So I wanted to start sharing out to others how they could also use the same process to make sustainable and lasting habit changes in their lives. So my plan was to take the woo-woo and pair it with the science so that you could understand in a very practical way how to actually make changes to your life, how to feel better on a daily basis, how to look at the habits that you're maintaining and how those align to the person that you want to be. So it's truly learning how to change your mindset, how to change your habits, and how to change your life. The last few episodes I've had have leaned into Neville Goddard's Your Faith is Your Fortune. So if you haven't listened to the last 2 weeks, I would definitely go back and listen so that you can put together identifying what your I am state is. Your I am is truly you just being. And my episode from 2 weeks ago definitely explains that a bit better. It's called Demystifying the Law of Attraction. And today I'm going to lean into talking about the principles that Neville shares in both chapter 4 and chapter 5 of Your Faith is Your Fortune. Then we're going to tie that back to looking at your own identity and how you can actually make changes to the identity that you hold, the habits and the behaviors and the routines that you're maintaining every day so that you can actually start to see changes within your own life. Key point of this is taking a look at the identity that you hold. And your identity is saying, I am this, right? Your I am is just your being. It's the person that you are. It's that you're aware of being here. So when you condition that with anything that comes after that, that starts to become your identity. The things that you tell yourself is true about yourself repeatedly, the things that you continue to go back to, or you could say the state that you dwell in, is what you're going to start to reflect out to the world. Whether that means that you believe you're in poverty, or you're wealthy, you're loved, you're unloved, you're worthy, you're unworthy. All of these pieces of our identity build into who we are, the self that we see as ourselves. That's what we're going to present to the world, and that's the perceptions we're going to pick back up from the world. We are always taking in all the external conditions through our own life filter. So our perceptions are going to tell us what's true or not true. Our brain is then designed to filter out and only show us really the things that we believe are true. So when you're in this negative bias type of cycle and you continue to see things that are negative and how things are hard for you and nothing ever works out and everything is a joke, that's what you continue to see. Your brain is going to actually seek out those experiences. Whereas when you believe everything always works out for me, I'm so lucky, opportunity just tends to fall into my lap from everywhere. Those are then the things that your brain starts to see. And as you start to shift that state, your perception is also going to change. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And start to lean into allowing yourself to see the possibility. just start to pick up on the possibility in the small wins that are aligned more with the person that you'd like to be, with the life that you'd like to lead. And how can you start on a daily basis, just starting to condition yourself a little bit differently? As we start to tie this together, if you consider the fact that you are always conscious of being, even if you were completely isolated around no one, had no mirrors, had no nothing, you would still be conscious of being. And within that consciousness, you start to provide the conditions that you believe true of yourself. That's kind of the core here of what we're going to get started with our conversation. And you do not need anyone to confirm nor deny what you are conscious of being. The identity that you hold true of yourself without a doubt, you do not need anyone to tell you is correct or incorrect. If you believed that you were wealthy and someone came up to you and said, you have no money, you have nothing, you would not be concerned. You'd be like, what are you talking about? If you were conscious of being a mother and someone comes up to you and says you have no children, you think they were off their rocker or were confused about who you are. If someone came up to you and said that your eyes were green, but your eyes are actually brown, you would think that they were off their rocker. Like, that's the thing, is that when you have a true, firm belief of yourself, these external things and what people say to you externally, they do not sway you, because your faith is actually within yourself. You believe this true of yourself, and you can actually make that true of anything. You can believe that about your own health, of your own love life, of the way that you're treated by others, of the career you have, the school that you're in. Anything can be built up into a true belief that you hold core to your identity. And to read directly from chapter 4 of Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville says, the man who is conscious of being poor does not need the assistance of anyone to express his poverty. There is no barrier to God, for God is your awareness of being. Regardless of what you are aware of being, you can and do express it without effort. You will from time to time know yourself to be many things, but you need not to be anything to know that you are. So what he's saying here is that you, one, don't need anybody to tell you what you truly are. Like, those beliefs that you hold true to yourself and super close to your own identity, you are not going to be swayed. You don't need anybody to tell you that that's what you are, because once you truly believe that, you don't have those doubts. You don't need to seek somebody else telling you what you are not, because you just have that firm belief. And I want you to take a minute right now and think about something in your own life that you believe so truly that no one else could actually sway you from it. Whether that's who your parents are, where you work, the type of education you have, the color hair that you have, whether you're a parent or not a parent, whether you're an aunt or an uncle or not, something that you can tie to understand how deep this feeling goes. And when you find that core identity of yourself, ask yourself, could somebody walk up to me on the street and tell me I'm not that thing, and would I actually believe them? What would be your thought if somebody said that to you? Because you don't need anybody to tell you what you truly believe of yourself. You have the answer to that. You know what you truly believe. You know what you're expressing. You know what you hold as your own identity and what you're saying your state is. And if you are new here, or if you just need a reminder, your state and your identity can truly be used pretty much interchangeably. And when I say that you don't need anyone to confirm this for you, that means any masters that you're looking for outside of you as well. You don't need someone to tell you who you are or what you believe, or even truly how to change those beliefs. I think a lot of times if somebody works with a coach, the ideal way to work with somebody is to have somebody who allows you to see different perspectives, gives you a new way of thinking or a new way of understanding so that you can work through things on your own. Because we are each truly like our own special snowflake. And I don't mean that in any kind of rude way. We each have the things that are going to sit in our subconscious better. We each have different gifts. Some of us are able in our mind's eye to see things very, very clearly, and some are not. Some are able to think about the sensation of touch and actually slightly physically feel that sensation of touch. The same with hearing. I can actually hear people's voices almost identical if I truly think about it. If I put a lot of focus into it, I can hear them as if I'm talking to them on the phone. I realize that not everybody can do that, but I'm also not able to visually see them. We each have our own gifts, and we have things that are going to work better for us than it would for somebody else. And so I really encourage you to lean into your own gifts and figure out what works for you, what actually resonates with you, what actually sparks something in you that says, wait a minute, I think I should try that. I think this is something important. Because usually it's that little nudge that's just kind of letting you know this is something you should pay attention to. You should lean into this a little bit more, especially if you want to make changes in your own lives. To go back to chapter 4 of Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville says, change your conception of yourself and you will, without the aid of masters or anyone else, automatically transform your world to conform to your changed conception of yourself. You are told in the book of Numbers that there was a time when men were in their own eyes as grasshoppers, and because of this conception of themselves, they saw giants in the land. This is as true of man today as it was the day it was recorded. Man's conception of himself is so grasshopper-like that he automatically makes the conditions around him appear gigantic. In his blindness, he cries out for masters to help him fight his giant problems. And I want to lean into thinking about this for a minute and just consider if you're doing this to yourself, where you have these problems in your life that have become gigantic. You're seeing yourself as small compared to this problem. Now, if you consider the fact that your consciousness creates reality, then in some level, you can understand that you are creating the problem. And you're also creating the problem to be bigger than you. Right? You don't actually feel like you have control over whatever this problem is. But if you were to consider the possibility of a solution, what would that feel like? If you just were to take a moment to step back and consider that you are able to actually change your own perspective, that there is not only a solution available to you, because there's multitude of different things that could turn out, right? When you're looking at any kind of problem. If you look at that solution and you allow yourself the possibility to consider that the solution is available to you, what would that feel like? And can you find a way for yourself to continue to return to that solution? And you need to figure that out on your own. You don't need a master to tell you how to get there. You can have somebody that can kind of support you along the way, that can give you new ideas, a new perspective, and a new way of thinking maybe, or just kind of to spark something in you. That is very helpful. But to have somebody actually come save you, that's not going to happen. You've got to figure that one out on your own, which is why I'm always encouraging everyone to be very honest with themselves about the feelings that they're holding, about where they're dwelling, because nobody can see into your mind. You are the only one with your perspective of the world, and you are truly able to save yourself. And I know that sometimes that feels very dramatic to hear somebody say, or to even say it to yourself. But you are able to save yourself from anything that's going on in your world now. The key here is to start living your life with intent. So have an intention for your day and for your thoughts, and start to work on catching yourself. How can I live with intention to be focused on the life that I actually want? How can I give myself purpose and pay attention to the beliefs that I'm holding and the thoughts that I'm having and the inner conversations that I'm having? Start to live with that intention. And when you start to pay attention to the things that you're doing and you start to introspectively look into your own mind, what is running through there at all times of the day? What are you saying to yourself? How are you talking to yourself? How do you view yourself? How do you view the way others treat you? And then let's start making small shifts to those perspectives that you're holding. That's how you change your consciousness of self. That's how you change your own self-concept. And I do want to take a small break here before I return to Your Faith is Your Fortune. And I'd like to ask that if you are finding this podcast beneficial, that you please, if you're listening on YouTube, like the video, leave a comment. If you're listening on a podcast hosting forum, if you could please rate and review, that would be absolutely phenomenal. It definitely helps me, one, understand that the content that I'm sharing is useful and you're enjoying it. And two, tells all of these lovely algorithms, yes, this is content that you should share out with other people so that the message can get to others. And then I want to go back to your faith is your fortune and talk a little bit about this conception that you hold of yourself. So Neville says you and your conception of yourself are one. You are and always will be greater than any conception you will ever have of yourself. So think about that. When you think about the conception that you have of yourself, that's how you're conditioning your I am. But you are always greater than any condition that you place on yourself, meaning it can change. And think about some things in your past, right? Habits that you kept. Like an example for me is that years and years ago, I used to be a smoker. The even thought of that feels so unnatural to me now that it actually grosses me out to even share it. But I used to be a smoker and I smoked for many years. And like even the memory of that to me now is like, there's no way. Like, no, my identity is so far removed from that it feels like a whole different lifetime. Because it was. I've completely died to that conception of myself of being a smoker. I could never imagine anybody offering me a cigarette and me having any desire to even touch it. Like I find it that repulsive. And that is truly like an identity change. I used to hold the identity of being a smoker. I didn't even see how I would be able to quit. Like it was so ingrained in me in such an addiction because I held it to my identity. And now my identity is so far removed. I don't even see myself as an ex-smoker. I see myself as a non-smoker. My identity has completely changed because I am greater than any condition or conception that I hold of myself. And this can be true of anything. You think about a woman who has a child. So before the child, she sees herself as not a mother. That is her identity. She does not have children. Once she has a child and she sees herself as a mother, she will not go back to the conception of not being one, right? Like that has now become a core part of her identity. And this can change for anything. If you see yourself as unworthy and not having much self-confidence, if that changes to someone who feels really good about themselves and loves who they are and really appreciates the life that they lead, your identity has then shifted. The way that you view yourself has now changed, and you're not going to really return back to that other person. You definitely could. It's not to say that you can only go on the up and up to positive things. You can definitely go back to something that's unwanted and undesired. But those identity shifts do happen because you are greater than your conception of yourself. You are able to change your own conception of yourself. You're able to identify closer with the values that you want to hold. You can actually choose your own qualities. And that's a remarkable thing to think about. You can choose the qualities that you have. You can choose the values that you wish to live by and become identified with those values. And then that just becomes who you are. That just becomes the person that you are is this person with these values because your identity has shifted. So I hope that makes sense. And oftentimes the things that seem like they are completely out of our reach is because we're looking at them from our current view of consciousness. So when you see something as completely out of reach, but you can think about it, it's because you're looking at it from your current limitations. But if you had no limitations, or you just allowed yourself to see the possibility of this happening, and you started to make small changes to the way you talk to yourself, the way you treat yourself, the way that you present yourself to the world, you would soon find that this did not feel so out of reach. You can actually start to slowly shift your own self-concept to be more aligned with the type of person that you want to be. And all that it takes is little shifts in your perspective, little movements so that you can start to understand the possibilities that are available to you. And going back to chapter 4, Neville says you rise to a higher level of consciousness by taking your attention away from your present limitations and placing it upon that which you desire to be. Do not attempt this in daydreaming or wishful thinking, but in a positive manner. Claim yourself to be the thing desired. I am that. No sacrifice, no diet, no human tricks. All that is asked of you is to accept your desire. If you dare claim it, you will express it. And I hope at this point of the podcast, you're feeling really good. Like, wow, I can actually claim this and start to express it. Because as soon as you claim it, your state, your identity is starting to shift. As soon as you allow that possibility to even enter your mind that this could be available to you, this thing that you desire, your own perception starts to shift, and you won't notice it maybe at first. I know a lot of times for me, I've looked back in hindsight and been like, oh, wait a minute, I can see where this started to shift for me. I can see where I started to allow the possibility to enter my life, and I started to treat myself better because I had this new identity, this new possibility that was available to me. And I am shifting to chapter 5 of Your Faith is Your Fortune, but Neville continues to say that to remove all the manifestations, all that is required of you, the conceiver, is to take your attention away from the conception. Instead of out of sight, out of mind, it really is out of mind, out of sight. So what he's encouraging here is, how can you move your focus away from this problem, the problem that you've made an absolute giant in your world, and instead focus on the solution? What would be the solution that could come about? What would be the desired end outcome? Is it that you're debt-free? Is it that you're in a loving marriage? And at this point, especially if you have been struggling to get these concepts to work in a way that you feel good about them and to have an ongoing sustainable change within your own life, I'm going to recommend that you just sit in the possibility for a bit. If this possibility is available to you, what would that be like? Just consider for a bit the possibility that you can have the absolute best desired outcome, that you can actually make a choice with your thoughts and the things that you're paying attention to start living your life with intent, to intentionally put your focus onto the possibility of this desired outcome, of this beautiful solution that could come to being for you. I just want you for a minute to think that if I told you the possibilities are completely endless, which they are, like truly your possibilities are endless, but I told you that you will only get the possibility that you put the most focus into, the one that you truly believe. And if you saw those laid out in front of you and you were able to just pick one up and hold on to it and look at it, and you knew that if you did that and you held on to it and you just looked at it and you knew without a doubt, no matter how long it took, that as long as you looked at it, it was going to be the possibility that ended up as your solution, how easy would that be? You could look at millions of possibilities and zero in on the one that was the most ideal outcome for you. And all you have to do is go over and pick it up and hold on to it. Don't put it down. Don't look at the other ones. Don't pick up the other ones. Don't go back and see if somebody behind you said that you picked the right one, or if somebody behind you is giving you a pat on the back like, wow, you're doing it. It's really going. All you need is yourself. All you need is to hold on to that possibility. As I return to Neville Goddard's book, he asks, it is your true self, your awareness of being asking you, its present conception of itself. Who do you believe your awareness to be? And think about that for a bit. It can be kind of scary to think, what do I truly believe of myself? What conditions have I placed on myself? But the more honest you can be, the more that you are in a position to actually start to see the possibilities that are also available to you. It can be difficult to really look at ourselves with true honesty about what we believe. But you can only change something when you're actually aware of it, like at least consciously change it. Neville goes on to say, this answer can only be defined only within yourself, regardless of the influence of another. I am is not interested in man's opinion. All its interest lies in your conviction of yourself. What do you say of the I am within you? Can you answer and say, I am Christ? Stop looking for signs. Signs follow, they do not precede. Begin to reverse the statement, seeing is believing, to believing is seeing. Start now to believe, not with the wavering confidence based on deceptive external evidence, but with an undaunted confidence based on the law that you can be that which you desire to be. You will find that you are not a victim of fate, but a victim of your own faith. And with that, I'm going to leave you for this week. I wish you nothing but the absolute best. I hope that this gave you some, hope and really good feelings that there is a choice for you. And I want you to just start with the possibility. What possibilities can you see for your own conditioned I am? If you have any questions, if you're listening on YouTube, you can definitely leave them down below. If you want to instead email me, my email is unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. I would love to hear from you. I always like getting the questions. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any, or if there's something you'd like to dive a little bit deeper into. I am definitely happy to talk to you. So again, I wish you a beautiful, beautiful week. Please get outside and do something for yourself today. Even if it's only for a minute, I want you to consciously choose to do something for you today. Give yourself some positive affirmations, pay attention to your thoughts. There is so much that you can do today to make a better version of yourself that provides you with more of the life that you want to lead. So remember, we're going to live with intent today in this week, and you will start to see the shifts within your own life. Have a great week.